When I turned 16, my dad had told me as a kid that I was supposed to get a job. He said that once you turn teenager and have, you say that, oh yeah, I can live independent, and you have all these things, then go get a job. So, I had gone to. And my dad was very insistent on not working at McDonald's or working at any fast food joint, as he said that those are temporary jobs, and he wanted me in a skills trades. So, my father was a roofer. He wanted me to pick a job that was technical and meant more to like being something that would be productive and would actually matter in the long run, to his words. And I remember I was in the culinary industry at this time, and sorry, my eyes blinking too much dust. But culinary industry, I was in it currently. I had my SHSM, which was a, I'm trying to think. It's like a trade certificate that allowed you like that you worked in the industry for like a different trade. So like automotive, woodworking, plumbing, electrician, all those kind of things. And I was in the culinary industry. I was in high school for, I was thinking it was my third year, because this was when COVID had hit, and I was looking for a job at the time. I don't know why I was looking for a job in COVID. It seemed like a bad idea at the time, but I needed the money, and I was wanting to get a job, save up some money, get my license, get a car, and explore the world. That was the plan. Or initially, the plan was to just save money and just spend it on video games and candy, as most kids do. And I was applying for a job as my mom was telling me that a neighbor of mine was working as a manager at a restaurant not far from where I lived. And my mom was like, "Oh, hey, this place is hiring, and the man, your neighbor, he's been looking at you, and he's wanted to go and see if you wanted to hire him, if they wanted to hire you." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." So I actually didn't bring my resume in. I think my mom gave it to my neighbor, who was the manager, and then I was in the bathroom. I was literally about to go shower, and I got a call. I didn't know who it was. It was just a random phone number. I pick up the phone and I go, "Hello, is this Nightingale?" I go, "Yeah, it's me." And they're like, "Oh, hey, we're so and so forth. We're calling from this pub, and we heard about you and your application, and we want to talk. Like, so how many hours can you work?" I said, "Well, I'm very flexible. I can work any day, any hour, at any time." Like, "Okay, and what kind of salary are you looking for?" I said, "Well, what's the minimum wage?" And she said, "Well, it's 15.50." I said, "All right, that's fine." And then she said one final question. She's like, "If you can you work today?" I said, "Well, definitely I can work today." I said, "But it's like 4 to 5 in the afternoon. Is that okay with you?" She's like, "Well, if you're just come in, you'll probably come in for like an hour or three, just learn some things, get a little bit a handle of the kitchen, and just meet some people, and then probably just go straight home." I said, "Sure. What time can I come in?" She's like, "Well, the sooner the better, because we close at 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and it'd be better to get you in and get you noticed by everyone else, and then you can leave or stay if you want to close and learn." So I said, "Sure." I didn't close that day. I went home afterwards, but I got to the place, and the boss of this place, she she was a nice lady. It was a small little pub, like right by the lake, and because I lived in a small little town, the lake wasn't really big. So actually, no, it was actually pretty big. I didn't really see most of it because I never explored halfway further up the lake. I just stayed kind of like the small rural town that I was in, and coming to it, I was very shy at the moment. Coming in, you had like the mask, sanitation, you had all the gloves and all the regulations to here and there, and I remember being very confused. And remember, this was my first ever job. I never knew what like being in a job was like, and I was 17 at the time. So working in a job at 17, I was nervous. I remember going in and bowing my head, like just full namaste, namaste, namaste to every single person I saw. They're like, "Why are you namasteing?" I'm like, "I don't know." I was nervous, and that's not embarrassing. The embarrassing thing was when I was working, because the rules were in this kitchen you could wear your normal clothes. Just there was a regulation that if you wore your normal clothes, if they got stained, dirty, damaged, or everything else, they were not at fault. It was at your fault. So they usually said wear something basic. So if it got damaged, it wasn't their fault. which I understood. I didn't care. I had some pretty decent clothes. But I had this My Hero Academia shirt, and yes, at the time My Hero Academia was very popular, and I loved it. So I had this shirt of Mr. Aizawa on it, and I remember going into work one day, and this is when it got embarrassing. I came into work, and I walked in. My boss was saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm like, "No, it's not bad." And I was working on the. How it really was is that kind of. It was a very small kitchen. It was very compressed, and you had your oven, you had your stovetop. No, you didn't. We didn't have a stovetop. We had a griddle. We had a grill, and like two fryers, and that was it. You had a microwave for like for other things, and then you had the middle part was like for your bowls, flour, all that kind of stuff. And then the far right by the open, it was an open window kitchen, so people could see inside. In my opinion, open window kitchens is I hate them. I do not like open window kitchens. They are not fun because open window kitchens restrict a lot of mobility, and because people can see inside, that kind of makes it a little bit more nerve-wracking. Yes, it forces the community and the chef to cook better and to be clean. But for sometimes, if you're not careful or you're not like that, you can make yourself look a little wrong, and then it can impact the business drastically. So that's why I personally don't like open window kitchens. I usually like a closed window because I don't want to see what's happening inside. Yes, I would want it to be professionally clean and sanitized and have no contaminations or physical, biological, or chemical. But like, I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, I came in and I had my Mr. Aizawa shirt on. My boss sees me and she's like, "Oh hey, just FYI, remember, if you damage your shirt, it's not on us because that looks like a really nice shirt." I said, "Yeah, I love this shirt." I wore it the previous day, but I was at home and I just kind of sat down and played video games and drew a little bit of art. I was drawing art of like, what show was I drawing? I think I was drawing like Two Kinds, which is a comic series that I love reading. I have book 1 to 5 in my house, but back on track. I got to it and I remember being worried, and we had a burger and I was running over, and there's a little point right by the grill that wasn't like shaved off, and it was a sharp point, and I ran and I tore a hole right through the shirt on my left side. I turned too hard and just ripped. It's a small hole. I'm wearing it right now, and I could fit my whole hand inside. Probably go up to my sleeve. And I tore it. I was like, no! I was so sad. I was so sad. Because it was my favorite shirt. And I loved it. And then I tore it. And then I came home. And then my mom wanted to kill me. And I understood it. Because it was like a $50 shirt from Hot Topic. And she wanted to murder me. And I enjoyed that job. It was a lot of fun. I was there for 2 years. Circumstances caused me to leave, but I never stopped loving that job. It was my first ever job, and I enjoyed it. Further jobs, they were hit and miss. Difference with like this job I worked, the first job, was in the winter time, because it was like an outdoor pub. When the winter time hit, it was very slow. Like it would like die, and so the business would close for the time being, like for the whole winter. Nobody was there. In the wintertime, you just found a different job, and then when it opened up again, everybody just kind of got rehired. You would kind of have to do your whole song and dance again with the whole kind of re-evaluation, re-interviews, resumes, cover letters, all the shebang. But since I was new and one of the chefs, my boss didn't have time for all these interview stuff, so he just kind of called all of us and said, "Hey, get back in the kitchen. You work at 9." And I'm like, "All right." Another thing that was shocking was the hours. Hours and pay. Those were shocking. When I was working there, my hours were around 9 or 11 in the morning to like 10:30 to like 11:30 at night. It was late. It was like a 12-hour shift. It was the longest I ever worked, but it made me understand the kitchen industry. I think there was like 4 people in this kitchen. It was a tiny kitchen. You could fit 3 people, max. 4 was pushing it. 5, 5 wasn't working. you could not get with 5. And that was a shocker. Because in the kitchen I work in right now, you could fit like 7 people. 7 people if you're lucky, and everyone is skinny. But yet like 2 big people, and you fit that with like a bunch of other people? That ain't working. 2 big people cover 4 people, and that ain't no way. No way. But besides the hours, the pay. Oh my gosh. The pay was amazing. Okay. My first ever paycheck, I opened it in 2 weeks. I made $1,000. By a month, I had $4,000. I was like, I made $4,000. I'm like, I can buy so many chocolate bars. I wasn't. I gave my brother my bank card, and I said, hey, I know you're playing COD. I'm playing COD too. I bought some new skins. I bought a lot of Maxis skins for like the female characters. I remember, hey, go and buy yourself a skin. I gave my brother my bank card. Big mistake. I went to go and purchase something, and my card said decline. I'm like, I know I ain't broke. So I'm like, okay, do it again, decline. I checked my banking. $4,975 was just gone. I was not happy. Seeing that message and like just seeing the notification, I checked my console, like checked my banking. It was all Xbox. I'm like, okay, I do not play Xbox. I played it, but I'm like, okay, if I'm spending money, I spend it like realistically. I don't just spend $4,000 in one day. And going back to this, I realized that I did spend $4,000 on convention items when I went to where did I go to? I went PonyCon. PonyCon was the convention I went to. Yeah, PonyCon. When I went to PonyCon, I spent $4,000. So I can understand the whole fact, but it was Xbox, and $4,000 was $4,000 at the time, and that was the first amount of money I made. So it was the only time I ever ran to my brother, and I was like, I am going to murder this child. I am going to murder him. But I saw him, and he honestly, he legitimately did not give a damn. And I think it was the first time I actually gave the Asian dad, or no, the Asian mom, like expressive, like, I am going to beat the living daylights. But I didn't. I just kind of looked at my brother. I said, dude, don't do it. I need you to reimburse me the money. My brother said no, and I got mad. I just walked away. I was like, But then he made a comment, and I turned around and I just smacked him hard, right across the head, because I was like, I know people are gonna say like, oh no, that's bad, but you have to understand, in a way, it was $4,000, and dealing with a 17-year-old at that time, my brother was 15. I don't think he understood like the fact of like how much that much money was stealing. Like when I told him, hey, you can use my bank card to buy something, I thought like 20, 30 bucks, maybe 50, but $4,000 just gone in a minute. It was deliberate. So I got angry, and my mom was very mad. She's like, you can't hit your brother. And I go, he's took $4,000. My mom looked like she wanted to kill the kid. She's like, your brother spent $4,000? Is he mad? I go, apparently he's mad. So I got reimbursed the money. I lost $500 because I lost $900 because they had to reimburse the money that they didn't have because of it. I was a little irritated, but whatever. Got my money back, and I spent my brother like a bit of money, but then he got a job when he turned 16. He worked at the same place I worked. When we were together, we're pretty decent together. When I left, my brother was working. Then the manager, my neighbor, he left with the other manager, with the head manager, and the head manager opened up her other place. She opened up a sandwich shack, and my neighbor moved into that job, and he became the head manager, and he has like whole control. I haven't been there. I definitely might go and give you like my own personal review on it. It was amazing. I've seen the place before. It's really good. I haven't tried it, but coming to it, I was very shocked. My brother, he had no management skills, but he had to learn the fryers, the grills, the stove, the griddle, the microwaves, all the ingredient items. He had to do the prep in the morning. He had to package things away. He had to learn everything. And it was shocking for like a 16-year-old boy to learn that, and I was sitting at 18 years old, and I didn't even know it. So in reality, I was just shocked. I was like, damn, they're teaching them young. Because I would have been fine if I came back, but like my own situation kind of kept me from it. And I swapped from job to job to job. I think I swapped like 3 jobs in a year. Because no other job really was the same. I didn't find a job that kind of hit that itch that I really wanted, a job that was comforting. And I did find one. Around, I think it was January of 2 years. 3 years ago, I worked at a job at Kelsey's up in the city. I can say it because it's a franchise, not a single place owner, but it's a franchise. I worked in a Kelsey's. They're a pub. They're like a bar and pub. They're big. But when I was working here, I was treated not the greatest, and the embarrassment kind of riled up because I was coming out at the time. So a lot of my names and all that were kind of flipped on its head, and housing was not a really good situation. So I was already in a pretty bad spot. So embarrassment kind of hit up, and one day I remember coming in, and my boss, she kept going on like these terminologies I didn't know, and I said, "Hey, so what's this?" And my boss just gave me a book, and she just said, "Read this." And it was 50 Shades of Grey, and I was like, "Why are you handing me this?" And my boss, no joke, she just turned to me and she's like, "You must read it." I was like, "Why?" And she just goes, "You must read it. It is important." I read the book. 5 pages in, I closed the book. I was like, "Nope." I just didn't read the book. I just gave up. I was like, "I'm not reading this." And but I left that job about a year and a half after. Like the pay and hours there were worse. I think I made like $120 per 2 weeks. Gas was like $100. It was bad. It was bad. Well, yeah. But then my paycheck, I was basically just grounding out some money and then paying $100 for my phone bill. Holy crap! I was like almost going in debt. I had to call my mom sometimes for gas money. It was bad. But the job I'm working at right now made me realize a lot of things about the job industry, kind of like how my jobs kind of switched. I one time applied for a Walmart, and they had a group interview, and they just looked at me and they're like, "Yeah, you're not a good candidate." I'm like, "You didn't even check my resume." She's like, "We don't need to. We just know you're not going to be a good candidate." I said, "Is it my hair? Is it my look?" She's like, "No, it's just you." I was like, "So what does that mean? What do you mean by just it's you?" She's like, "It's just you. You're not who we're looking for. If you find someone else, maybe they can help, but you're just not for us." I just left. I just walked away. And then I remember about to leave the door, and they fired like 3 other guys, and they all looked at me and said, "Hey, do you want to get a drink?" I'm like, "I don't drink." They all got fired. Everyone got fired. No one got hired. I was like, damn. Not a single person. Like there was 10 of us. 3 walked out, and then everyone else just walked out. I was like, no one got hired? Like, no one got hired. They all just want to get a drink, and I was like, damn. Because Walmart, they hire and they fire fast. But coming to my next job, the one that I'm at currently, it meant a lot to me. How I got hired was actually different. How do I explain it well? After leaving Kelsey's, I kind of was in a decline. I didn't really want to work. I was just in my bed, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to work. Working, it wasn't that I hated working. No, I love working. I love pushing myself to my limit. I like the extent from it. But I was just tired, and I needed a break. So I told my mom, I'm like, "Mom, I am taking a couple months, and I'm just gonna rest. I just need some days, get with some friends, and just bathe in the sun." My mom agreed. She said, "Yes, take some time." She said, "Don't take too much time," but she said, "Take some time and rest." So I did for about a month and a half. A month and a half came by, and my mom said, "You looking for a job?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm still looking for a job." My mom offered me if I wanted to work at her place, but my dad said, "No, our children are not going to work at McDonald's or a fast food place. They should work in the trades." And I was in the culinary industry, and I said, "Sure." But I didn't want. The pub was closed. They had finally foreclosed, and they had left. It was a place by a different people, and I wasn't sure if they were hiring the old people. So I said, I'm good there. There wasn't really many restaurants that were hiring at the time. My brother was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm doing co-op at this one restaurant by a grocery store, and the manager is looking for people." And he said, I've mentioned you before, and I believe that maybe if the things I've said might be a good reference to help you get this job. So I decided, I was like, all right, fine. I walked over to this place with my resume in hand, and I came in. I said, "Hey, actually, no, I called. I said, I'd like to make it, my brother said, "Oh yeah, all you have to do is just walk in and say that you want to make an interview." I walked in, I asked for the kitchen manager. The kitchen manager wasn't in that day, and she said, "Oh yeah, come in on Wednesday." So Wednesday I did. I walked in Wednesday, kitchen manager was there, and she said, "Hey, we'll head upstairs." I handed my resume, we're talking, basic questions, what can you do for us, what things you can do, and so on and so forth. I actually got the job. My brother had done enough work and enough kind of sayings to kind of help me get the job. And I was hired. But I didn't start working until a week later, because they were renovating the floor. They replaced the floor with something else. And I have a lot of embarrassing stories with this one, which will fit with the theme of this story time. When I was working, I first started, I was midway through my transition. My body was changing, chest definitely, and I was very self-conscious. I was carrying some dishes, and a colleague of mine, she had spilled au jus. Au jus is like a sauce you'd use like for liver and onion, not for liver and onion, for prime ribs, for beef dips, and other things. And my waitress had spilled some on me. It was burning hot, and it got on my shirt. My colleague, my manager's like, "She said, take off your shirt." I'm like, no. I was like, no, thank you. And she tried grabbing my shirt, and she's like, "No, take it off, take it off, take it off, take it off, take it off." I'm like, "No, I don't need to take it off." I just ran downstairs and just grabbed another shirt, changed, walked back upstairs, and just continued my day. That was embarrassing. I fell all the way down from the top of the stairs down to the very bottom on a moppy floor. That was embarrassing. I one time asked my boss, what does it mean when, what does it mean by a rock in a hard place, or a lot of other stains? So those were embarrassing. At one time, I couldn't get the waitresses' names right for 2 years, so they just started calling me a different name because, well, it's payback. I don't mind it at all. It's kind of funny. There's a lot of stories that I've had from them, but the thing I've always found is that the industry is a wonderful place. Jobs are jobs. They always come and go. You'll always find amazing people. Sometimes you'll find like better people. Sometimes you'll find people that you'll talk to and just never see again. And you'll build lifelong friends. I've always been astounded by it. It has allowed me to grow and just be someone else. And coming into college, my professor, he had us write an email to him, and the email had a bunch of questions like, what made you come into this industry? What is one thing you love about it? What made you realize that this is what you wanted to do? How was your upbringing? How's your lifestyle? How's your family? Do you have any siblings? Just where did your passion come from? And I remember answering every single one in like deep detail. But when I got to a question like, how was your upbringing? I was like, well, my upbringing was very isolated. I grew up very quiet. And I grew up not with a lot of food in my world. So I grew up with a lot of frozen foods like takeout, from frozen pizzas, hot hamburgers, hot dogs, and McDonald's. So I didn't have a passion for it. I didn't have a palate. And a lot of the family, my grandmother, she took care of me a lot when I would go to her place. And that's where I learned my passion for food. I loved cooking with her. I loved Caribbean dishes, curry, cassava, roti, bake, um, lamb, goat, sundae, coconut. I loved all these meals. They were amazing, and they made me realize they made me realize that food brings people together, and that was what I put. And when question one of them was, has there been a job or an experience that has made you realize this is what you wanted to do? I said that I found that my jobs have allowed me to grow as a person. I'm not the same person as I was before. When I first started jobs, I was shaking. I was nervous. I was hypercritical. I assumed too much, and I was always dead set on a very dangerous pathway when I was cooking. I sometimes didn't care. I just sent out food, and if it came back as an error, I just kind of shrugged it off and went on my way. Because in my opinion, it was just money. I could just do another. But when I got into this and I realized more about jobs and how we impact the industry and we impact the world, I grew to love it, and I grew to understand what it meant for me, and just for me as a person. It meant a lot, like the time I've spent there, and my colleagues, they're very supportive. They know about what I'm doing. They know about my modeling, not modeling, VTubing, and they know about the streams and all that. They watch them a little bit sometimes, and they laugh and they make some jokes, and I wanted to mainly make this to say thanks to everyone that has done this. To all the people that I've worked with, all the people that have given me support and kindness and the jokes along the way and everything. I just want to say, I'm tearing up a little bit. It meant a lot to me. It truly did, and I don't know. It did a lot to me. I grew, and without these people that impacted my world, I wouldn't be the same person that I am now, and I'm thankful to all of them. It's just thanks. Without a lot of them, I still would be the same person, and I wouldn't be able to, well, sit here and talk and like get to know you all and get to meet people. And coming to it, I realized that I still have a journey to make. These story times will definitely be here, and they are comforting. They allow me to grow and to evolve as a person, and I can just be someone else and be someone that I want to be. And yeah, that's really it. I still have more to do and more to grow and more stories to tell and more more laughs to make. But the story that I had before, the people that I've met, the highs, the lows, and all the in-betweens, they allow people to grow, and I strongly encourage for anyone to just go out, explore, help someone do the lawn, just do things, shovel a driveway, because you never know how that is going to come back to you. And kindness comes in many ways, and it's important because you never know, that person that you help might be the next person that's going to be there to help you in your time of need. But yeah, that's my kind of embarrassing story. I know for a tangent I kind of went at the end, but it's important. People kind of need to know. And I have these stories when I tore my shirt, when I fell down the stairs, when I've laughed, I made comments about 50 Shades of Grey. Just everything I've done has been fun. And those stories, they help. You can't really put them on a resume. You can't put them on a resume, I can tell you that. Don't do it. I love comedy on my resume, and I got kicked out the door like immediately. Don't put them on the resume. It is a fast way to get out the door. But if you're honest and you're true and you always help people and you are willing to open your heart and be there for people and make them smile, you'll have it. You don't have to be full joker like making comedy jokes, but just make a joke once or twice. Have some fun. Because it's always important, but knowing your audience. It's always important to know who the joke is meant for. My boss at my job right now says gauge the audience. Know if the joke is appropriate. I will make a joke sometimes, and my boss will be like, "No, it's gauge the audience. They don't want to hear that." And it takes time. Maturity doesn't come immediately. You will learn. Determine on where your situation is and where you grew will determine of where you stand in this moment. And I found that to be interesting. It's not until the moment like you truly understand like the importance and that key is like really important to you. But I'm glad I got to tell you this. It's nice to kind of tell some stories and just allow you all to kind of enjoy the world, see how it is on my side. And well, if you ever have stories, I'd love to hear them. I'm always here to listen, and if you put them in the comments, I might write my own little story, because I find it that stories bring people together. They're not just things that we tell people to just, oh yeah, we made the story. No, stories are what define people. They define who you are. Like just like jobs, just like music, just like writing, everything has meaning and purpose. And you never know. Your embarrassing stories might always come to help someone else. But that's everything. I hope you all have an amazing day. This has been Rango, and I hope to see you all later. Peace.